In a world of ordinary fantasy football podcasts, ordinary guys rise up to bring you extraordinary analysis and entertainment. This is the FLAFFL House Fantasy Football Podcast with your hosts Kevin Cotillo, Sal Lito, and Stephen Marcus.
I'm on a boat. I'm on a boat. Everybody look at me because I'm sailing on a boat. I'm on a boat. I'm on a boat. Take a good hard look at the mother boat. I'm on a boat, mother. Take a look at me. Straight floating on a boat.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Today is Sunday, January 8th, and this is the FLAFFL House Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm laughing because I'm not going to stop this and redo it again because I've already done it, and it sucked the first time. It sucked the second time. I figure if I keep going, it's going to suck again. So what's up, guys? How's it going?
You suck!
So the intro regularly gets screwed up, but luckily for me, I get to start the recording, so I get to just stop it and restart it anytime I want. Whereas when, Sal or Steve makes a mistake in the middle of the podcast, we just kind of have to work with it and make fun of them. But anyway.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Our professionalism is put to an entirely new level. We have to, a lot of pressure riding on us each and every night.
That's true. Yes, you have to make sure that I sound professional somehow, which is.
Are you doing this each and every night? What the hell happened here? I've only twice a week.
Did we not tell you, Sal?
I thought Steve was talking about his performance in the bedroom.
Oh,
what?
Whoa!
Hey.
Whoa! All right, so that's Sal Lito.
I said every night, not never. Okay.
Steve Marcus is here too. I'm gonna try and keep moving along here. And, welcome to the show. We are going to talk some football. Obviously, it is Sunday. There have been 4 playoff games that have occurred, just like we predicted, or I predicted, I should say. All 4
You predicted that 4 games would be played?
Yes, I got that right.
Oof.
Also got it right that all 4...
Nostradamus over here.
Also got it right that all 4 home teams would win. I think most people predicted that as well, except for Steve. Although you did hedge.
Yeah.
You did hedge. So...
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Anyway, Sal, if you were here last time, you would have predicted all home games, I'm sure, right? All home wins.
No, of course I would have taken my Raiders. So
Obviously.
No, that's not the case.
Would you really? You were going to take the Raiders? You thought they were? Well,
Of course, I thought the Raiders could win that game. Yes.
Huh. All right. Well, we'll get into all these games. That's what we're gonna talk about all 4 playoff games tonight. We're gonna talk about the FLAFFL Playoff Challenge, which is currently ongoing. And we're going to somehow try to keep Steve from mentioning the fact that he's in second place because I'm sure that'll get annoying.
That's going to be tough. That is going to be tough for you guys to do. We'll see how that goes.
We're also going to preview some of the upcoming playoff matchups now that the round 2 matchups are set so that you can kind of get into your, for those of you setting weekly playoff challenge lineups or for those of you concerned about how far down on the list you are on the FLAFFL Playoff Challenge, Sal. You might be able to still have a chance at getting back in these, so we'll go through those.
I'm ahead of 2 people.
I
honestly did either one of those people submit lineups? I gotta look.
Yes, they actually did. So you are in third from last is the easiest way to say that.
Woo! Well, when we get to the playoff challenge, I'll go over a couple of things.
Right. So that's pretty much it for the show as far as what we're going to do tonight.
Good night.
Yes. No. We still have to do it, Sal. We're just as far as talking things we're going to talk about, that's it. Just want to remind everyone before we proceed, if you somehow want to follow us after this, you can follow us on Twitter at Falafel House. You can follow me on Twitter at Wally Central. You can follow Steve on Twitter at Sid Skeet. You can follow Sal on Twitter as at Lito Sal. We are all also in the Fantasy Life app in the Falafel House chat on a regular basis. I believe it's the #1 trending chat on the app, so go in there and check it out. And, pop in, say hello. Guys?
Hi.
Yeah. No. So anyway,
Mr. Wally? Hey, Wally?
Yes.
Just so you know, I did make it easier on Twitter. I didn't change my handle, but if you put in Sal33 in the search, I do come up.
Oh, good. Yeah. So I should remind you that Sal is different on the app, Fantasy Life app, than he is on the Twitter. He is Lito Sal, as I mentioned on Twitter. at Sal33 on the app. So, yeah.
Do with that what you will.
Yes, whatever you will. All right, guys, let's get into some games. Let's talk some football. That's kind of what we like to do around here. And we didn't really discuss the how this was going to go down. In case you haven't noticed, we're a little ill-prepared for this podcast tonight. I'm just
Not me. I'm completely prepared.
I'm just going to get that out of the way.
Yes, you are struggling, Kev.
Yeah, it's not my best day. I'm not sure why either. I think I was tired. Yeah, whatever. Anyway,
I think I know what it is.
You're drunk.
Really?
You know?
Yes, I do have an alcohol problem. Thank you for pointing that out.
You know that the Texans are coming to town.
Yeah, I'm worried.
I think that's your problem. You're a little flustered.
I'm nervous.
Fear the rise of the ass washer.
You can't not be nervous when ass washer's coming to town. That sounds terrible. All right, let's just move on. Let's just keep going here. We'll start with that game, the Texans and the Raiders, AFC. The first game of the week. It didn't really start off very well for both the Raiders and for the playoffs. I think a lot more scoring in this one than I think anybody really anticipated. But that doesn't mean that it was really that great. The Texans win this game 27-14 and really had the game in hand pretty much the entire time. Wasn't really much time for them to worry about it. Osweiler actually looked good, guys.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that he looked good because of how terrible he looked through the season. Obviously, his name on the show is Ass Washer, so we don't think very highly of him. But, yeah, you're right. He did look good. He had a rushing touchdown. He looked pretty comfortable, and, he found DeAndre Hopkins, which amazing. That works most of the time. So, yeah, it was different to see. It was encouraging almost.
I believe that it was since I called him Ass Washer, he decided to show up finally against my team and bash their brains in.
So he goes 14-25. He throws for 168 yards, gets the touchdown, and then also, as Steve said, he runs one in 6 rushes for 15 yards and a touchdown. So if it was, if there's no one out there that started Osweiler in the playoff challenge or in any playoff challenge, but if you did somehow, you probably had a decent day. But the real story, Steve, like you said, is DeAndre Hopkins, 5 catches, 67 yards, and he actually gets a score. He had a long 38-yard reception as well. So he has 9 targets and only catches the ball 5 times. It's still not typical or what we used to think of as typical DeAndre Hopkins, but at least he gets in the end zone here.
Yeah, it's very, very encouraging, and you hope that it can translate into some better chemistry for them next year. You don't really pay attention to what's going to be happening with them next week as much, or at least I don't. But you take it as a sign of encouragement. And I think what else is really impressive about Houston, you have to talk about their defense a little bit. Jadeveon Clowney had a great game. Their defense looked to be hitting on all cylinders. Now, I know the Oakland Raiders offense is not the offense that it should have been, but still, their defense was very, very impressive. And if they can hassle the quarterback like they were against Oakland, if they can do that next week in New England, then that's the type of thing that does throw Tom Brady off their game, and that's pretty much going to be the only chance they have of making any type of game out of that one in New England next week.
That game opened up at 15.5, the spread.
I see it at 16 already, so it's going up.
Yeah, and that's probably not terrible either.
That's what I said. I said it's almost not enough.
Almost.
And it's
I feel
crazy.
like if the Patriots lose or don't win that game by more than 10, then they're doing something wrong, and I might actually be nervous about the following game.
I might be nervous after watching what Pittsburgh did today anyway.
Yeah, we'll get into that. So Sal, on the Oakland side of the ball, tell me what happened.
Listen, we've talked about this before. I did think that Oakland had a shot at winning this game because they do have a really strong, solid offensive line. And I got to be honest with you, the offensive line did not play good in this game at all. Cook was pressured repeatedly. You send out a rookie quarterback. I don't care what kind of big time at college he played at. You send out a rookie quarterback to play his first game in a playoffs against a good defense, like Steve pointed out. It's not a formula for success. They didn't run the ball well, with the exception of one drive. I don't know. That one drive did give me hope. That was the one point in the game. Kevin, when it was 10-7, where I was like, okay, they kind of look like they settled down. The defense was actually playing really well because at that point they'd only given up the one touchdown where the drive started on their own 5-yard line. And I thought that they really had a shot there in the first quarter. It just did not go well from that point on. Receivers dropping balls, running backs dropping passes out of the backfield. Overall, the entire team looked like they were in over their heads. And I mean, I don't want to say the entire thing rode on Derek Carr's injury, but it really does look like they were out of sorts ever since that happened. But I think the game plan was a bad game plan. I really, really like Jack Del Rio. I'm not going to badmouth him. I do think that he had a bad game. I do think the coaching staff had a bad game. And I got to assume that McGloin was badly hurt because there was no reason with the season on line not to take Cook out at halftime because this is it. There was no tomorrow. There was no next week. There's no nothing. You got to win. So I think that they went in there and they had really no alternative. And Jack Del Rio came out and said today that it was great to get Cook that kind of experience. And, you know, he's trying to say what he feels are the right things. But it's, as a Raider fan, it was a great season. 12 wins. I think they could have had 13 if Carr didn't get hurt. I think they could have had a bye week if Carr didn't get hurt. But coming into the season, if you would have told me we would have been in the playoffs, I would have been ecstatic. So happy for that. Happy to see them get back next year and see where we go. But they were definitely just outmatched. The Texans' defense came to play. There was periods in that game where Osweiler did not look good, and he did look a little bit like his old self, but he did make plays. But the defense legitimately carried the day for Houston in this game.
New England gets another bye week.
All right, so, you know, the Oakland Raiders are now no longer in the playoffs, obviously, and, you know, we look forward to Amari Cooper bouncing back and all the Raiders' high-flying offense coming back next year. But to your point, Steve, Houston Texans traveling to New England. New England gets another bye week. I think you're completely right on this. I don't think they have the stuff to keep up with New England. The
testicular fortitude, I believe, is what the term you were looking for.
That would be a good term to use for sure. I just don't think they have the firepower to keep up offensively. Their defense obviously played great. They do have, they'll get after Brady, no question about that, because New England's offensive line, while it has played great this year, it's not nearly as talented as Oakland. So they'll get after Brady, but the difference being Brady just gets the ball out of his hands so quick, makes his reads. I mean, obviously it's Connor Cook, so a huge difference there anyway. But they can't. The Texans will not keep up with them. So if we're talking about next week's matchup in Foxborough, 8:15 on Saturday. So Steve, Sal, tell me, who do you like in that game from a fantasy perspective? I mean, if you're in a playoff challenge, not ours, but a different format, which some are, where you have to pick a different lineup every week. Is there anyone from the Texans that you're thinking about rolling out there?
I can't imagine. I can't imagine I would in this game. Maybe so Steve, Kevin and I are in Scott Fisher's playoff challenge. Steve did not enter because $5 is a lot of money. I understand, Steve.
The holidays, man. The holidays are hard.
And basically, the idea behind this playoff challenge is you start 5 players a week, 1 quarterback, 1 tight end, and then at least 1 wide receiver and running back, and then you fill in a flex player from wide receiver or running back, and you can play a guy and then never use them again for the rest of the playoffs. So maybe I'd use a guy like DeAndre Hopkins in that format because I got to imagine they're going to be down and I got to imagine they're going to be throwing. But outside of him and maybe Fancy Hat Fedorowicz, I can't imagine wanting to touch a running back or even Osweiler for that matter in a playoff challenge. So if I'm desperate and it's use a guy and he's eliminated, maybe I go Hopkins.
Yeah, and even in a format like that, I mean, I think you would have gotten your Texans out of the way this week anyway, because you know that Oakland's defense, particularly the passing defense, can be had. So, like for me, I used Hopkins in a couple of places. I don't think I did in that specific in Scott Fish's league, but I did use him in a couple of places, formats similar to that. So I think you had to use him earlier, against Oakland. Then you're not going to have him for this game. So on the Patriots side of the ball, I think, Brady's obviously an option, although I would probably wait to use him if it's a format where you can only use him once, because their defense is fairly good, and like we talked about, and there might be a better matchup against Kansas City or even in the Super Bowl. And then anyone else on the Patriots?
Putting them right into the old Super Bowl, huh?
Oh yeah, sorry. You didn't
put them right in there?
Just is that too presumptuous? No, good?
Yes.
No.
Oh, I think it's very presumptuous.
It is.
It's expected
like I said,
from you, though.
It is. Yeah, exactly. Would you expect anything else? We'll talk about how good Pittsburgh looked in a minute. Actually, you know what? Why don't we get to that right now? The Pittsburgh Steelers. There's really no other way to say it aside from the fact that they dispatched the Dolphins handily today. 30-12 was the final score, but it was kind of embarrassing right from the start. The offense actually stalled a little for the Steelers, and they still came out on top that quickly. 2 quick scores for Antonio Brown in this one. Ben Roethlisberger, I think he completed his first 10 or 11 passes.
It was 11, even though the 11th one should have been intercepted.
Yeah.
But it was 11.
And then the 12th one was an interception that wasn't his fault. So,
he was trying as hard as he could to turn it over.
Yeah, he was working on it. So, but overall, the offense was phenomenal for Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers. Roethlisberger goes 13 of 18, 197 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Yeah, Le'Veon Bell, phenomenal, 29 rushes, 167 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not active in the passing game like you normally see him. He only has 2 catches for 7 yards in this one, but they just didn't need to throw the ball to him because, they were up by so big. Antonio Brown, 5 catches, 124 yards, 2 touchdowns. Both touchdowns were ridiculous. He caught the ball and made a couple of moves and then was just gone. So, phenomenal day for those 3, and hopefully you did take advantage of having them in your lineup. And, on the Miami side of the ball, it's all about Matt Moore, huh, Steve?
It is the Matt Moore show in Miami. Everybody's loving him. Everyone's jumping on the wagon. Gio especially. He had a lot of fun with Matt Moore today. I'll tell you what, he did not look good as a quarterback, but geez, that guy took a few hits and got back up and continued playing hits that literally would have killed me. I would have been dead on the field watching some of these hits. Yes. And that is not an exaggeration.
Is it true that you actually weeped just watching the hits?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. It is true. I had some tissue. They got a kid that's sick over here, so I just was dabbing the eyes because it hurt. It hurt me to see that. So it was unfortunate for Miami. They a very uphill battle. They had won the game against Pittsburgh earlier in the season. It looked like Pittsburgh was determined to not let Jay Ajayi run, and they were going to make Matt Moore throw the ball and beat him with his arm, and he just wasn't able to do it. Was not able to keep up with that Pittsburgh offense, and so it was just very unfortunate. It's crazy to see how well the Steelers offense is moving. You just pointed out all the statistics, and they just look great. Both of those Antonio Brown catches, the ball was thrown no more than 10 yards down the field, and the rest of it, he just ran away from everybody. Yeah. So it's when they're doing those types of things, and Le'Veon Bell's running the ball like he is, they're going to be very hard to stop. This next game, they are going into Kansas City. The Chiefs are a 1.5-point favorite in that game, so it's going to be a really good game. I'm looking forward to it. Of course, the news and what everyone was talking about, why Ben Roethlisberger is in the game so late. He showed up at his press conference after the game in a walking boot saying that he'd hurt his ankle, but that he was going to play. So that's definitely something that you'll want to be keeping an eye on going forward into next week.
I like Mike Tomlin, but he continues to do things that befuddle me. He had Le'Veon Bell in that game too
ridiculous.
Long. He had Antonio Brown returning punts in the 4th quarter. He's more and more becomes a guy who thinks he's smarter than the room, and it's going to cost him. It's going to cost him, and let's see how Roethlisberger comes out of this, because you could say I'm going to play next week all you want, and he might go out there and play, but this is a problem. Ben has a history of getting nicked up, and he does not play well. Kevin pointed this out during the season. Does not play well when he's injured or coming back off of an injury. And for all the greatness and good that came out of this game from that offense and statement game, I think Tomlin having any of those guys in the game in the 4th quarter was a huge mistake.
Yeah, and not to mention, you're talking about a guy who not only struggles to come, when he's coming off an injury or playing with a little bit of an injury, but also really, really struggles at home or away from home, I should say. And traveling to Kansas City is not going to be an easy place to play. We all know that. We all know it's tough there. It's loud. One of the louder stadiums out there. And, I mean, he's going to struggle. I have a feeling he's going to struggle. But to Steve's point, that offense looks really good. And Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell can make quarterbacks look really good no matter how they're playing. So.
And we talked last week on our preview show about our DFS lineups and how Le'Veon Bell was the most expensive player in DFS that week. I believe he was $10,300, worth every penny. So if hopefully you spent on that and had him in your lineup because he was worth it.
I did, but then I forgot to spend on other people.
Just for those of you who listened to the last show, Steve did win the DraftKings bet that we had going pretty much on the back of Le'Veon Bell, I believe.
Yep, that is correct.
If
that
Eli Manning could have done anything, we would have, would have been a different story. I would be on top. Sal finished last there as well. So,
well, actually, I had that Matt Moore, Devontae Parker stack going,
right.
And Doug
Right.
Baldwin really helped me out quite a bit as well. So. I
got
help.
screwed on Ripkowski.
Always excuses for you.
I had him tucked away in my lineup, nice, and then ESPN Radio said, he's not going to play, he's questionable. I took him out.
You know what actually killed me, Steve, is that Kenyon Drake, who was my really, really, really buy low option at 3,000, he had one target, and I don't know if I'm sure you watched the game, but I don't know if you saw the target. He dropped an easy pass with a lot of open space. That could have been the 3-point difference right there.
It really could have, and you gave me a bunch of crap after Seth Roberts had his one catch for 1 yard. And you gave me a bunch of crap about him, and it turned out he was a better play than Kenyon Drake.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Even DeAndre Washington, who I got 1.6 out of, had more than.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so that's it. Not a lot going on with Miami. I did say, to Gus, our friend Gus, GG, who's in the Fantasy Life app and the Falafel House chat quite regularly, also writes for the website, falafelhouse.com.
He don't write crap.
Well, he doesn't write, but he does a lot of our IT work for free, which we constantly appreciate when he wakes up. But I was saying to him, look, I hate the Dolphins. They're in our division. I expected them to lose this game, and I expected them to lose it by a lot. But I will say this. Adam Gase is a pretty damn good coach, and they have some pretty good things going on for next season. This offense is going to be better next year, I believe. Even if it is Tannehill still, or Matt Moore for that matter. I think Gase is good enough to get something out of these guys. And that offensive line, when healthy, is really, really good. So they have some good stuff going on there. They're going to be a tough out all season next year.
I think people are too hard on Tannehill. I think he's a good quarterback. He's not an elite quarterback, but he's a good quarterback. And to your point, Kevin, Ajayi showed up on the scene this year with that O-line. And they have two. Parker's going to make the ascension next season. And Landry's a big-time receptions guy. I do think this was a hell of a season for the Dolphins. They made quite a run after starting off really poorly, and they had to be commended. There are certain teams going into the playoffs that you knew didn't have the longevity to last, but good season by them, and it'll be interesting to see if they make any moves on the division next year.
You know who Tannehill is? He's Alex Smith. That's why no one likes him, because he's boring, doesn't do a lot. He's not going to get you great fantasy numbers, but he's not a bad quarterback. He
does have those good. He has those good games from time to time for fantasy. He'll run because the guy can run the ball and he gets the rushing touchdown. So he'll have a 25-point game.
Yeah.
It's just throw the dart at the board to figure out which week it is.
And he'll have some 12-point games too, which is the biggest problem. Is that he doesn't have his consistency is kind of all over the place.
I don't know about that Alex Smith thing. Alex Smith is consistently 13 points.
He has games every once in a while where he'll run 2 touchdowns in and throw another one. I mean, it's usually 1 or 2 a season, just like Tannehill, in my opinion. But, whatever. That's fine. Moving along, the Pittsburgh Steelers will take on the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't have it in front of me. You guys know which game that is next week? It'll be the early game on Sunday, I believe. Is that correct?
I don't have it in front of me.
Most likely,
ill-prepared for this question.
I would say most likely, since the Steelers play today, it will be a Sunday game.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So anyway, that for that game, look, I think there's going to be a lot of fantasy goodness in that game as well. We talked about Roethlisberger's struggles, but I still think this offense is going to have a heavy output, and they're going to have to, because I think the way the Kansas City Chiefs offense is moving these days, they're going to have to. It's going to be a shootout. Maybe not shootout. Shootout might not be the right word, but there's going to be a lot of points scored. Any thoughts?
I want to kind of leave you hanging there a little bit. No, I don't know. Again, I don't know about shootout like you're saying. I could see both teams in the 20s, maybe a 27-21 game.
Right.
I like the Chiefs in that game.
Really?
I do like the Chiefs. Yeah, I like the Chiefs to win that game. I think the Chiefs are better on defense. I think they find ways to get it done on offense. Like Kevin said, Roethlisberger has struggled tremendously on the road. He's going to be coming in nicked up, and let's see how it goes. But I like the Chiefs to head to the AFC Championship game.
See, I'm still picking Pittsburgh. I still think that the Pittsburgh has too much firepower, even with a Roethlisberger who could be shaky. I think he'll do enough to get the ball in the hands of Brown and Bell that it's not going to matter. And I think Pittsburgh's defense is playing much better than they were earlier in the season. They've been, they were pretty much shut down the run today. Obviously, they got up big, so there wasn't as much for Ajayi to work with to begin with, but they did still shut him down. I mean, he only had 3 yards a carry, so 2.1 yards a carry. I'm sorry. So there was just nothing for him at all. And I think their defense is playing well enough that they're going to be able to stop Alex Smith enough, and their playmakers will make some plays.
Yep, I would have to agree there. I'm still sticking with Pittsburgh. That is the morning game on Sunday, so it is the 1:05 Eastern start on Sunday. But I would agree. I think a lot of it will come down with how the game starts. If it is, if it's close, I think that gives the Chiefs a lot of momentum going throughout the game. The closer it is, the more Ben Roethlisberger is going to be forced to rely on what he's doing, and the more he could probably make those mistakes that he's keen to do on the road. I just don't think that Kansas City is going to be able to keep up with Pittsburgh. I think they got things going too well. Their secondary is not very good. They might shut down Le'Veon Bell a little bit more, but so many weapons for Pittsburgh. I just don't see them being able to slow them down on all phases of the game. So I will stick with Pittsburgh.
The Chiefs actually were worse against the run this year. They were like 26th against the run this year. And they were a little bit better against the pass, but you got to take into account all three phases of the game, and the Chiefs have good special teams.
And Justin Houston's coming back.
Yeah, they have good special teams. They got a good defense. They make plays. They've had a penchant for blocking field goals and taking 2-point conversions back the other way. It just seems to me like the Chiefs have this extra factor every week. They figure out a way to do it some way or another. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Steelers won, but I'm gonna roll with the Chiefs against you fools.
All right. Well, you will be wrong. Let's move along to the NFC. We're going to talk about the Seattle Seahawks, who showed up to play a game on Saturday evening, and I don't know who played them. Did anyone show up to play against them? Was there anyone there?
You could almost say that for every single one of these games.
Yeah. It was, it's a little one-sided weekend for sure. The Lions lose this game 26-6. Seattle pretty much had this in hand. It was 10-6, I think, going into the fourth quarter, and then Seattle really took it over. But they it looked like they dominated the game for the majority of it, and the reason for that is Thomas Rawls was ridiculous in this. 27 carries, 161 yards, and a touchdown. He averaged 6 yards a carry. He could pretty much he obliterated the Detroit Lions defensive line. I'm not sure what was going on with them. They're usually a pretty stout defensive line. Obviously have had some struggles lately. I thought they'd get it together, but they just could not stop him to save their life. Russell Wilson also throws 30 times in this, completes 23 passes, 224 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Doug Baldwin gets 11 catches for 104 yards and a touchdown. Paul Richardson illegally catches the ball in the end zone, Sal.
That's right. I noticed that 10 minutes before NBC pointed it out. I zoomed in on various pictures. I posted in a FLAFFL chat. Everybody was telling me I was out of my mind. And whammo, they come back and tell you that it should have been offsetting penalties and the touchdown should not have counted. So, Mr. Dean Blandino, if you'd like to hire me to come in and work in the New York offices of the Instant Replay booth, I will take care of that. It's kind of a gift.
If you are not on the Fantasy Life app and hanging out in the chat, this is the kind of fun that you miss. Obviously, this went down in the chat. People were giving Sal all kinds of hell about taking the time to snapshot the actual play, show the face mask.
From different angles.
Yeah, from multiple angles too. Yes, multiple angles.
And with like 10-minute gaps of silence, and then all of a sudden a picture would pop up and you'd be describing the play. It was awesome. It was so
anyway.
I even had Matthew Stafford giving the pass interference signal and pointing the opposite way.
Yes, you did. So anyway, good call by you, Sal. It was an illegal catch. Obviously, there should have been a penalty thrown. Offsetting penalties on the play, I believe, should have been thrown.
Hey, screw it. Listen, that was amazing.
Amazing catch.
Amazing one-handed. I mean, literally stuck it out and palmed it and had the ability to pull that into his chest while ripping a man's helmet off. That was amazing.
His other hand was very busy at the time. So anyway, no one had Paul Richardson anyway. So Jimmy Graham, you might have had. He probably disappointed you in this one. 3 catches for 37 yards. Didn't really do a whole lot. Didn't factor into the game plan, it seemed like. This was all, like I said, it was all the Rawls show.
I think that the injury getting banged up early kind of set Graham back a little bit also.
Yeah,
he took a big shot early in that game, missed some time. He came back, but then I noticed that Luke Wilson was playing over him for most of the first half, even after he came back. So that definitely factored in.
Yeah, it shook him up a bit, but hopefully going forward next week, he will be able to put that behind him. The Lions, on the other hand, they could do absolutely nothing in this. Stafford, look, we talked about it before, but ever since that finger injury, he was not the same this season. He was inaccurate. Yeah. He just didn't have it.
Yeah, the team just really, really went downhill ever since that was going on. I was on the Lions a lot this year. They were a nice team to bet on. They were, heavily undervalued each and every week. And just these last few weeks, they were getting huge point spreads. This week they were +8 against the Seahawks. A few weeks ago, they were +6.5 against the Cowboys. And they just got obliterated each and every time. Their defense has really let them down and given up a bunch of points, and their offense just could not get anything going. And, going into Seattle for a playoff game, when you have all those things going on and Seattle was finally starting to do some things right, it just was a perfect storm of things to go wrong, and it did.
I think it emphasizes why the quarterback is the most important player on a team. A lot of these up-and-coming teams might want to say, or some of these less elite teams who had good seasons like the Raiders, like the Lions, Dolphins, and even towards the end, the Titans, when those quarterbacks went down, that was it. They really stopped winning. The Dolphins won some games under Matt Moore, but when it went up against a better level of competition. But the quarterback consistently is the best, most important player on any team in the NFL, no doubt.
Yeah, there's absolutely no question about that. It doesn't help when you don't have a running game either. Zach Zenner gets 11 carries for 34 yards. It was nice that he was good for a minute there, huh? That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. It was fun. It was good. Just to throw this out there really quick, next week, the Seahawks the Falcons are -4.5 in that game against Seattle in Atlanta. So Seahawks an underdog. I don't know if that's a normal thing for them in the playoffs.
I mean, in Atlanta, against a team that has just dominated offensively all season, I guess I can see that.
Give me Atlanta. Give me Atlanta to cover that.
I think I would be leaning that way as well. I think they're going to be upset about how the game in Seattle ended this year with the no call of the pass interference on Julio Jones from Richard Sherman. So I think there's a little revenge in store for Seattle. I Oh, it's gonna be a good game. I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, that's
so. Hey,
excited.
As we're talking right here, this report literally came over just now. Steelers assistant coach Joey Porter arrested after altercation with police outside of Pittsburgh bar. Hey, why is this guy a coach in the NFL? He was on the goddamn field last year trying to fight players during a game. He wasn't a good person when he played in the NFL.
No, he wasn't.
Fire him. Get him out. You got guys. You're supposed to be a team leader as a coach. It's an embarrassment. All the Pittsburgh Steelers fans, because he was great Joey Porter, will say to me. But the guy is just as bad a problem as Burfict and all those clowns, Pac-Man Jones, all those clowns. Get him out, Pittsburgh.
Look, it takes a special kind of nut job to be an inside linebacker or a linebacker in general in the NFL, in my mind. I think those guys are a little bit crazy in general. But hold it together and don't be
Yeah, that's not nice.
Steve, make notation of that I curse and Kevin curse.
Yes.
Bleep this out.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes, thank you, gentlemen. I didn't have anything else planned for tonight, so
Yeah, sorry. Anyway, I don't even think we really need to go through the specific stats on the Lions. They are out. We move on with Seattle against Atlanta, as we talked about. Here's a question for you, like we talked about in leagues where you may have to pick a lineup again next week. Do you trust Rawls to do it again?
I don't think that I would. The history of the season has been that you cannot rely on the Seattle run game. As soon as you think that something like this is going to be the way that they go, the direction that they're heading, they kind of stop, or they just stop doing it, or they can't get it going, and so they have to rely on Russell Wilson. Plus, with this matchup, and like me and Sal and Kev, we've all talked about the Falcons probably going to be winning this game. I don't think that Seattle will be able to rely on that run game as much as they did against the Lions. So I probably wouldn't be using Rawls this week. I think Doug Baldwin and Jimmy Graham would probably be better options this week over anyone in the run game.
Yeah, I think Rawls will be fine this week. I don't know if he'll have the as good a game as he had yesterday, but I'd be fine rolling him out there against the Falcons defense personally.
Yeah, I think I'd be okay with him. There might be some better options, though. Although, the two running backs that you might consider using for Atlanta, I would stay away from against Seattle. So that kind of eliminates two guys. But, I think LeGarrette Blount's going to be a decent play against Houston, and I think both running backs in the other AFC game are probably fine. Let's talk a little bit more about the remaining NFC teams, I should say. Green Bay is moving along after beating the Giants. 38-13 was the score here. This game was a lot closer for a while, and then the Packers started to pour it on. Who had Randall Cobb scoring 3 touchdowns? Either of you guys?
No, I had him for 4, so I blew it.
Yeah, that was good. I only had him for 2, so I undercut what he was going to do a little bit.
Well, at least you guys were both closer than most of the people who thought he was going to do nothing in this game. In fact, it didn't look like he was even going to start. But before we get to that, let's start with the Giants, who didn't really look very good on offense. As I said, they scored 13 points. Eli Manning goes 23 for 44 with 299, a touchdown and an interception. It's pretty much just a regular old Eli Manning kind of day for this season. They said it on the broadcast, Sal, and you've been saying it, I think, all year. This offense just never clicked. They just didn't do what you thought they were going to do this year.
Yeah, I think that coming into the season, everybody expected the Giants would be led by their offense. They've had 2 good years. They've gone up in both years under the tutelage of the guy who's now the head coach there, McAdoo. And they just never took off this year. The defense absolutely carried them to where they were. They had no run game. Odell Beckham had a tough start to the season and finished strong. I mean, we've all heard so much about the boat trip to Miami and all that stuff. It's not the reason they lost this game. They lost this game for a lot of reasons, a lot of mistakes that they made, but also because the Packers are just absolutely rolling right now. Aaron Rodgers is locked in. He's absolutely locked in. He's having one of those runs that happen only every so often in the NFL. And based on what we saw today and what Steve said, I believe, last week, and it's the reason he took Rodgers as his quarterback in the playoff challenge, it wouldn't shock me right now if they continued to make the run all the way to the Super Bowl. It's just locked in, and guys go down, like Jordy Nelson goes down, and other guys step up. I mean, Randall Cobb came back from the dead in this game. It's very impressive. What can you say with Odell Beckham Jr.? He played bad. He had drops Eli would have had a better game. He started off well and had like 3 drops early that hurt him, hurt the team, and he punches a wall and breaks a hole in the wall after the game. Odell Beckham Jr. It's just 2 years of Odell Beckham Jr. throwing tantrums like a big baby. It's until he gets himself straightened out from that standpoint, it's always going to hang over the team and be like it's like a foul stench that follows the team. So,
wow,
a good year by the
foul stench that follows the team, eh?
Yeah, it's just, hey, what did you turn into a Canadian?
Yeah, you went a little Canadian J there.
Oh, sorry.
Off, eh?
Yeah, I've
but,
been working on my international, correspondence. So
I'll say that I don't think the Miami trip is what cost them the game today. But I will tell you that the team goes as Odell Beckham goes, and until he straightens out his attitude, I don't think that the team can make the leap to the next level. I guess gotta be honest, he's the guy.
So I look. We'll talk. I think you're right, Sal. I don't think that the Miami trip has anything to do with them losing this game. But I will say it's not something that teams preparing do. I don't care that it was their off day. I don't care that they were well within their rights. I don't care that the team didn't really care that they went. To me, you don't see teams that are well prepared and teams that are ready to go and teams that are focused on what they're doing that stuff. I mean,
I'm definitely not agreeing with it. I'm agreeing with you. I don't think they should have done it. I think they should have been home, getting prepared, and ready for the game. But at the end of the day, it's not the reason. It's not a good deal, but it's not the reason.
Yeah.
What it comes down for me is that it's why even give anyone the opportunity to point to it and use it as an excuse, or to even just don't even give them the opportunity to say that this was the reason that you guys lost, that you're not focused, that you weren't playing.
I don't know. I don't care about that either. I just because I wouldn't. If you're a player, I don't think you should care about whether or not people think you weren't focused because of this. I think you weren't focused because of this. I think that it just shows that while most guys, most players who get a day off this close to in the playoffs, they take that time, they hang out with their families. They stay home, they relax and get their bodies right, just so that they're prepared for the day. And they don't have to do football work. You don't have to study film. You don't have to do all that because it's your day off. I get that. You got to decompress. But traveling to Miami to go out on boats and or whatever else, it just doesn't seem like the way to do it if you're a guy that's focused on the playoffs.
Now
I'll tell
listen,
you what. Go ahead, Steve-O.
I don't do much. I don't play football 5 days a week. I don't work out extensively 5 days a week.
Or at all.
And I still don't do a damn thing on my days off. I still just sit around and do absolutely nothing because that's what I want to do. And so I can't argue there, Kev, but these are younger guys and they have the means to go out and do this kind of stuff. So I'm not surprised, but I wouldn't want to give anyone the extra ammunition to use against me when this happens, now that they can say that this happened.
Even the flight alone, you guys know, you've been on flights. Now I get it, they're young guys, they're athletes, but you travel on a plane, it takes something out of you. You get dehydrated.
My joints.
Joints. It's just not good for you as an athlete. I don't know, whatever. Sorry, I'll get off my soapbox.
Did you say joints?
What?
Yeah, my joints.
Some guys were smoking joints on that on that boat. Did you hear the clip with Sterling Shepard?
No.
Somebody speaking to the camera, and in the background, Sterling Shepard could be heard saying, "No, I can't take amphetamines. I play in the NFL." Nice. It's an audio record. But the guy who surprises me in all this is Victor Cruz. Victor Cruz is the guy who was there for the Super Bowl run in 2011. He's the guy who missed the last couple of years. To me, he's always been a type of guy that's made good decisions. He's been a team leader. He was involved in this too. And so I give him a heavier dose of the blame because he's been there before. And he should be the guy to try to take Odell Beckham under his wing and getting his head right. But just did you guys see pregame today when they were on the field with no shirts on?
Yeah, with no shirts on.
And they're out there with no shirts on. And I don't mean like without their jerseys on. I mean bare-chested, no shirts on at Lambeau Field. And they're not running around just, getting warmed up. They got their phones and they're taking selfies of themselves while they're doing it. It's a joke. Your head isn't in the game and you're not ready to win. I don't know. I'm a little bit older, right? You guys break my what's about being older. I'm not old, but I'm older, and to me, I come from an older school where it's game day. You're focused. You know what I mean? You're out there stretching. You got your game face on. You're looking at the other team, and you can't stand them. You're not dancing around and posting pictures on Instagram. And I know it's a different generation, and the younger guys can be like, but guess what? You got your asses kicked today, and there is something to be said for that. So.
Do you think Odell Beckham is on his way to Miami right now to go fishing with Jarvis Landry?
He probably could be. I mean, he could the rest
and
of the
no
year
one would
now.
care.
He's good.
And no one would care. Just 1 week later. Just wait a week.
Just wait. Well, I mean, I think the idea is set, Steve, is that you're not expecting to wait only 1 week. I think
you should have. They should have seen Aaron Rodgers and how good he was doing.
I think they were planning to win. Aaron Rodgers throws 25 for 40 at 362, 4 touchdowns, still no interceptions. I don't even know how many throws that is without an interception, but it's a ridiculous amount. He is
1,072.
Yeah, he is on fire. Ty Montgomery looked good in this, or was looked good as a receiver in this game. What was that catch that he made? Three catches for 41 yards. Didn't really do much on the ground, but didn't really have to. Devontae Adams 8 for 125 and a touchdown. Randall Cobb 5 for 116 and a touchdown. Jordy Nelson's the only guy in here that didn't really look great, and that's about it. Even Ripkowski gets in the end zone.
But Jordy Nelson left so early in the game. No, I mean
he got hurt.
Yeah, he didn't come back. My apologies.
No,
I thought I saw him come back.
No, it's a pretty good chance he might not play the rest of the playoffs.
Well, yes, he is injured the old ribs, but I think he's going to come back next week. I've got a feeling.
We'll see.
I've got a feeling.
Turns out it was an illegal hit that wasn't called too. I don't know if you guys saw when they went back to that.
I didn't see any screenshots in the chat, so.
Yeah,
you'll have to.
Unlike yesterday, I was on the move a lot today. I had to listen to the Steelers Miami game on the radio, which is just like, awful. The Giant game, I got to see pretty much most of it, but I was moving around. Brother's birthday, had to head out to celebrate his birthday a little bit. I was moving around, but I was in front of the TV for 90% of that game, but not able to get snapshots. But it turns out that he was technically considered a defenseless receiver, and the defensive back led with the helmet directly into the ribs, and he should have been flagged for it. Not that takes away the pain of the injury or brings Jordy Nelson back into the game, but it was illegal.
So Randall Cobb next week, then the Packers will travel to Dallas to take on the Cowboys, who are well rested after their bye week. And is Randall Cobb the guy next week, Steve?
If Jordy Nelson is not playing,
you think Jordy's playing, but so would you have any stock in Randall Cobb? Let's say Jordy does play. You think he can rebound or no?
No, I think if Jordy is playing, I still wouldn't be using him in any type of playoff format or DFS format. I would probably be leaning towards Randall Cobb because he's probably cheaper than Devontae Adams is right now because of the regular season and the ownership numbers throughout the regular season. So I probably would lean towards Randall Cobb. Obviously, you cannot expect the type of production that you got today with over 100 yards and 3 touchdowns, like Kev said, but he did look good. He looked like the receiver that everyone probably expected to see from him all season. And then, like Sal said, which is odd because he was people didn't even know if he was going to be playing today. So it was definitely very refreshing, a good time for him to step back up because you don't know about Jordy Nelson. I think that he finds a way to come back into play. But that doesn't mean that he's going to be very effective because, rib injury probably, those are pretty painful. I've had some injured ribs myself, my old playing days. But we're not going to get into that right now.
You just said you do nothing. You literally do nothing, and now we're supposed to.
Well, he said his old playing days.
Right.
Yeah, my old playing days. Come
on. Oh man! All right, Sal. So you mentioned
I wouldn't rely on Cobb next week personally. He's been so inconsistent over the last 2 years. And he's had a game or two like this here and there, but he has not been able to put any of that together consistently. So for me, I'd be leaning Devontae Adams, who's been consistent all season.
So Sal, you mentioned that the Giants' running game couldn't get going in this one. They had no running game to speak of, really. The Green Bay Packers through the first half of the year were phenomenal against the run. We talked about it on a regular basis on this podcast, how good they were against the run. And then all of a sudden, you could start running on them. Their defense kind of started to crack. But they go up against Ezekiel Elliott Do you think their defense is going to be better now? Did they turn a corner, or was this really just the Giants being terrible at running the ball?
Yeah, I mean, talk about opposite ends of the spectrum.
Obviously,
the Dallas running game
obviously.
and the Giants running game. I don't think Ezekiel Elliott will have a problem running. I don't think that the Dallas offensive line will have a problem making holes next week. So I think it's full steam ahead in that game. I do believe that the Cowboys will win that game and take on the Falcons in the NFC Championship a week later. So
you're wrong on that too.
So is that just contrary to a few seconds ago where you're talking about how good Aaron Rodgers looks and how he could potentially
I said it wouldn't surprise me. I said it wouldn't surprise me if they continue to ride this hot streak and make it to the Super Bowl. It wouldn't surprise me. However,
I think you're playing to the crowds. We got a lot of Dallas fans in our chat, and me and Kevin are going to take a lot of hate by taking the Packers in this game, and I think you're fading us and you're cutting your losses and picking up all these Dallas fans.
So when the playoffs started, I said it would be Dallas and the Falcons, and I thought it would be Kansas City and the Patriots, and I'm sticking with it. I haven't wavered from that. I
didn't know because you weren't on our playoff preview show last week.
We discussed it at the end of week 17. We discussed it even though I wasn't here. And I had to work, guys. All right, like, this fantasy isn't paying the bills. All right, so I had to actually work. I'm sorry I missed last podcast. I'm sorry.
So for those of you sponsors out there who would like to help make this podcast work for Sal, if you'd like to hear Sal,
get him to be on it every day.
If you'd like to hear Sal on the podcast more regularly, please call us with a sponsorship offer.
That snow's not going to blow itself, Steve.
Oh boy!
All right. Thank God for you then.
Look, that's all the games from this weekend. We've talked about them all. Hopefully you've stuck around for it. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about the playoff challenge as it stands? I know Steve does because he's in second place, but
I'd actually like to hear Sal talk about who's in first and who's in second and all of that. So yes, Sal, let's hear about it.
So let me just go into my junk, Steve, because that's where the email is. Yeah, so it was a very interesting first week in the FLAFFL Playoff Challenge. Overall, we had 221 entries, and I think only about 119 of those people actually set their lineups. I don't even want to say correctly, because at the top, not everybody changed their names over. So franchise 191, whoever you are, and franchise 35, whoever you are, you have illegal lineups.
You're out.
You're out.
You're out.
That's it.
There's no time to go back and change it. We were pretty clear on this. One player per NFL playoff team. 12 teams, 12 roster spots. Not that hard. So that brings us to a good friend of ours, a Kansas City Chief fan. She's all excited for next week. Battleborn Case is in first place with 141.5 points. And in second place is the Skeet himself, Mr. Chops, Steve of the Falafel House podcast.
That's right.
Who had Aaron Rodgers in his lineup and also had Le'Veon Bell, I believe, Steve. Is this correct?
That is correct.
And who else was your big scorer yesterday? Doug Baldwin.
Yes.
So that's good. 139.7. And, scooching down a little bit. Let me see if we have any other. John Bosch is up there. Empire.
I know we got Caveman pretty high up there as well.
Caveman's up there.
Craig, Slime Sucking Hogs.
Kevin, when you're doing it, you're supposed to mute it.
I'm sorry.
We're busy over here.
Yes.
Swagzilla,
where are you?
Up there.
Where are you, Kevin?
Yes,
Where's Wally Central?
I am not far from Steve. I am, 6th, 7th? I don't know. I'm not far down there. I'm in the top 20, we'll say.
Oh, yeah, 6, 7, and 20. Those numbers are all close.
Steve is number 2.
Yes.
Steve is number 2.
No, I came in. Steve obviously came in at number 2 with 139.7 points for the weekend. I finished with 112 points. For the
112. There you are, tied with Mr. Gates and Nighthawk. I have to look at that and see. I guess you. Oh, you're also tied with Lee Cooper.
I believe,
and the Mad Viking. Yes.
I believe Nighthawk and I actually have the exact same lineup, if I remember correctly.
You guys will lose together.
That's right.
So if you want to scroll all the way down, I am of the actual rosters that were put in. I am third to last. It was funny because it was a long weekend for me. As if you guys, I was going to say anybody on the Northeast will know. We got hit pretty bad with snow, but I think anybody on the East Coast would know because as far down as Raleigh, North Carolina, they got they got hit with snow. It was a busy weekend for me because I do snow removal for some hospital sites in the Queens area of New York. So I really didn't get to pay much attention to my falafel roster, and I was having some cake for my brother's birthday, and my son says to me, "Did you have a bad weekend?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He's like, you scored 55 points. That's not even half of what Steve scored. So
No, it's not.
With my roster, here's what I decided to do. I said to you guys on the podcast a couple episodes ago that I was going to try to go contrarian. We have the prize for the Scott Fish Bowl. I have a pretty good knowledge from Scott that he likes me enough to put me back in next year. So I have nothing to play for. Scott, please, back me up.
Yeah, you hear that, Scott? You make him pay for this.
It would be great. It would be great if you didn't put him in. Just throwing that out there.
If Scott doesn't put me in, I will adjust all the scores so that I win. So I decided to go in a couple of different directions than some other people, and so far not so good. I did not go with Brady or Rodgers. I went with Roethlisberger and Ryan. Sebastian Janikowski, thank you for your 2 points, sir. Enjoy the rest of the winter off. Houston Texans defense, great. Got them going forward to next week. Odell Beckham Jr., you screwed me, buddy. Jay Ajayi, you pooped in my bed. I got nothing out of any of these people, and I'm down at the bottom. But I'm hoping to make I'm hoping to storm back next week with Ezekiel Elliott and Matt Ryan and more Roethlisberger. Come on, Roethlisberger. Started off, he had 14 points in the first quarter, and he finished with, I think, less than what he got in the first quarter with the 2 interceptions that he ended up throwing on a day. So
I'll tell you what, I got to say, 2016 is over. 2017 for Sid Skeet's fantasy season, starting off with a bang. All right. I won the DraftKings with the 3 of us. I'm in second place after week 1 of the FLAFFL Playoff Challenge. It's good to be back. It's good to
can't argue with the Skeets. Can't argue with them.
I can see relegation happening for you next year. So.
You have no idea. No, I'm gonna get my trophy back.
I don't think that's gonna happen. But I do fully expect you'll be in that league for a very long time. Just you mentioned Battleborn Case being the leader at the top. Just for posterity here, her roster includes Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Jay Ajayi, Ezekiel Elliott, Latavius Murray, Doug Baldwin, Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, Travis Kelce, Will Tye, Matt Prater, and the Houston Texans defense. So she did pretty well. Obviously had Antonio Brown, Doug Baldwin, and Aaron Rodgers all close to 30 points each. So great round for her. Congratulations for being on top there. And but I'm coming to get you. So we will be back. What's that, Steve?
Kind of creepy, bud.
That actually wasn't me. Oh, come on. That was a reference from the South Park movie. A very old reference.
I was talking about Kevin being
saying I'm just coming to get whatever. Anyway.
Oh yeah, definitely creepy on Kev's part.
Right. I'm always creepy. Let's you guys are awesome. We will be back with another show. We'll be recording on Wednesday night. So for those of you late night owls who actually download the podcast that night, it will be Wednesday. For most of you, it will be Thursday. So a little different schedule this week. Obviously, Monday, Thursday. That should be our schedule continuing forward for the off season until we take a vacation. Sal, you're going to give us a vacation sometime, right? We get to take a break.
Back to work.
All right. Until then, let's get to some finishing thoughts.
All right, everybody. Thank you for hanging out and sticking around and listening to the Falafel House Fantasy Football Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Falafel House. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. And you can find falafelhouse.com where you can check out fantasy articles that kind of slowed down right now, but we're going to be picking them up, getting into all the off-season goodness with the free agency and the draft just around the corner. So be sure to check that out. And I think that's all I got tonight. Sal.
To everybody who properly set their lineups and participated in the Falafel Playoff Fantasy Challenge, thank you very much. Hope you're enjoying it. And if you have any questions, please reach out to Steve and Kevin and leave me the hell alone.
I will add just real quick. Hopefully this isn't stealing Kev what he was going to say, but the chat, getting into the Falafel chat during these playoff games, it has been insane in there. It has been crazy. It has been a ton of fun. So download the Fantasy Life app and jump into the Falafel House chat during these playoff games. It is a ton of fun. You will not regret it.
Okay, so since Steve did steal my finishing thought there, I will just apologize for being bad tonight. I'll try to do better next time. And until then, Steve, hit the button.